Welcome to Per Her Perspective, a podcast of raw, relatable conversations on leadership, challenges, and solutions in running a business, often with the support of smart peers. The show inspires business owners to grow, make bold decisions, and go bigger with confidence. I'm your host, Marla Noel. Let's get started. Hi, this is Marla Noel with Per Her Perspectives, and I'm going to talk to you today about management. One thing I've learned, and one thing that you will learn if you're in business long enough, is that management is not natural for most people. Understanding how to manage people requires a little bit of education. Most people fumble it if they're not trained on how to manage people. I know I did. And I know how hard it was to actually learn about good ways to manage people. It's not easy. Why? Because people are complex. They sometimes have emotional issues, sometimes at home, and you don't know what's going on. That interferes with our ability to do our jobs and judgment. In addition, there are sometimes mental challenges that requires an elevated response. And if we're not trained in what that is, sometimes we don't handle it very well. What is the role of a manager? A manager is responsible for getting a job done. And we're going to be going from an individual contributor to a team leader. We're going from somebody who is doing the work to somebody who is doing sometimes and supervising the work. And our responsibilities are changing, again, from doing the work to then planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Our responsibilities are changing to planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. And we want to be doing this in alignment with the company's goals and the company's culture. The biggest thing when you're going from being one of the workers to a manager is you're not one of the guys anymore. You're not the same. And sometimes you had been working with a friend and now you have to correct a friend or somebody that you're close to. How do you do that to be respectful with dignity? It's not personal, it's business. And so we have to go from being one of the people on the front line to supervising. And sometimes that requires that we're going to be managing a friend. But what I said before, we're planning, organizing, leading, and controlling. Aside from the emotional aspects that this involves, what does that look like? Well, we are managing to run a job or a performance or a service. What does that look like? We need to have step-by-step processes that are documented that need to happen. Now, if your company does not have standard operating procedures, it might be up to you to make those standard operating procedures. And quite frankly, that's not always easy. There needs to be training for you to be able to do that, but we need a step by step. How do we do this job? The step by step. Then what's the timing? What should I expect this job to be done by? Training. How do I train people to know how to do the job? And then talent. Do they have the ability to do the job? And if not, what do we do then? We need to figure out the step by step. What is the timing to be able to do that job? What kind of training do we need to have happen to ensure that people know how to do the job? And do they have the talent for the job? Let's talk about planning first. That's what I said. This is where we start planning. What needs to be done? Who needs to do it? How do we keep the projects or the service on time? And how do we maintain the quality? And again, this is aligning with your company's values and your culture. And when we sell our services or our product, we are selling based on price, timing, and quality, right? And if we're pricing so that quality is not as big a factor, then that plays into how we're planning. We need to know those things. Then we have to organize what needs to be done first. We need to define the job. What are the expectations and the results that we expect? Who needs to do it? Somebody has to do the job that has the knowledge or ability to perform or learn the task. So who needs to do it? That's what we need to figure out when we're organizing. And then we need to keep the projects on time. What needs to be done and when does it need to be done by? I find the best thing to do on larger projects, we need a timeline and we need to identify what needs to be done at the beginning, what people, what materials do we need at the beginning of the project or in the middle of the project or at the end of the project. So we need the timeline to identify those things. As a manager, it's part of your job to figure that out. Where does the project start? Where does it end? And what is in between? Your job is to figure out where does the project or the service start and how long should that take? And what is in between? What are we doing from the beginning to the end of the project? That's part of our responsibility. And then who is it that maintains quality? And I've heard business owners say this way too many times. I just can't seem to hold people accountable. Well, guess what? It's your job to hold people accountable and then create the systems in place to hold the people doing the work and the managers to maintain the quality. What is it that what is the quality that the business is expecting? And how do we check along the way to make sure the quality happens? If a project is a longer project, we need to have checkpoints in the middle to ensure that we're maintaining the quality that we expect. Where are those checkpoints? When are those checkpoints? It's up to a manager to make sure that the checkpoints happen and that we do the right thing if our quality isn't what we expect it to be. How are we ensuring that we meet that quality? Is it training? Is it the talent of the person doing the job? Is it our explanation of the job? I found out way too many times that I did not explain a job and my expectations clearly to get good results at the end of the job. It's up to us as managers to define expectations and to have those checkpoints along the way. We need to have identifications of the quality and what we expect the quality to be at certain checkpoints. Now, when we're running jobs with people, we typically have some conflicts along the way. And this is where I feel managers need a lot of help. A lot of help because many of us are conflict adverse. Like we don't want to address a conflict when we see something happening. It's really important as managers that we learn how to do this. And this is again, possibly a separate training, but in the beginning, we need to at least identify when there is a conflict and address the conflict early, stay neutral and solution focused on the conflict. And then our job is to facilitate difficult conversations. There is a book called Crucial Conversations. If you have not already read that book, you should read it because this will help you in facilitating a resolution to the conflict. And part of our job as managers is to manage conflict. We're working with people. As long as we're working with people, there will be conflicts, and it's up to us to minimize or reduce or eliminate those conflicts. And we need to, again, do that with the company's goals and values in mind. We are working with other people to ensure whatever quality the company expects. And if our core values is quality, then we need to supervise around that and correct to that level and coach and help other people understand what their job is, how they're supposed to do that job, when we expect for them to do that job, and if they're not doing the job to our expectations, how can they rectify that so that they can do the job in alignment with our expectations? We have to prioritize what we're doing. And the Eisenhower matrix is really beneficial to help us to prioritize and delegate tasks effectively and block time for focus work. And so what does that mean? Anybody can Google the Eisenhower matrix, but I want to tell you what we're focusing on is getting complete the urgent and important matters first. In quadrant 1 are the urgent and important tasks. Those are the things that we need to do immediately. And as a manager, it's your responsibility to know what that is. So you need to know what it is that must be done first. The Eisenhower matrix will help you figure that out. Quadrant 2 is not urgent, but important tasks. We're going to get quadrant 1 tasks done first, or at least schedule them out. Quadrant 2 is not urgent, but we need to schedule those for possibly after quadrant 1 tasks are done. Quadrant 3 are the urgent but not important tasks. And those, if we can delegate those to somebody else, that would be a great thing to do. And then the last is the not urgent and not important. And guess what we do with those tasks? They may not get done, right? Not urgent and not important. If you're doing something in that quadrant and you have something in quadrant 1 that should be taken care of, then you're doing the wrong thing. It's a good idea to identify tasks and put those in the Eisenhower matrix to figure out what you should be doing first and last. And then communicating. How are we communicating to our crew or the staff or the people that we're working with? There is such a thing as active listening and clear messaging. Active listening and clear messaging. What is active listening? As somebody is telling me what their expectations are, I'm responding to them. I'm either repeating back maybe some of what they're saying or offering a confirmation reflection, like this is what I heard you say. And when I'm communicating, I need to identify the style of my audience. And I do believe in assessments. There are assessments like Predictive Index or Acumax, DISC. All of those will help us to know the style of the people that we're communicating with. I highly recommend anybody who owns a business or is running a portion of a business, make sure you have assessments of the people so you understand the communication style and how you can best get to them. Why? If I have somebody that is fast moving and they want to hear things quickly and I'm talking slowly, I'm going to lose their attention in a heartbeat. If I am talking to somebody that needs to think through some of what I'm talking to them about and analyze it and absorb it, I can't be talking quickly and expect them to get everything as I'm speaking. I better be handing something to them that is written down so they can absorb in that way. And again, when we talk about teaching people, are the people that we're teaching, do they learn by listening and hearing? Do they learn by reading? Do they learn by demonstration? All of those things you need to know this when you're training your staff. And as a manager, it's up to you to understand the right communication methods for people to help them learn the best way. So this is a basic in the beginning. What do you need to know as a manager? Your job is to first, plan, right? Plan, organize, lead, and control. So some of what I've talked to you about today is planning and organizing. And so we're going to talk a little bit the next time around about leading and controlling. Plan, organize, lead, and control. That's your job as a manager. And I encourage you to read the book Crucial Conversations so you have a better idea of how to work with the people that are relying on you to help manage them. This is Marla Noel with Per Her Perspective, just a really quick way of helping you to be a better manager.
You've been listening to Per Her Perspective. I'm your host, Marla Noel. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss what's next. To go deeper, check out my book, Drama Free Management, a practical guide to moving teams from high drama and low performance to low drama and exciting results. To connect with me, visit my website, ocgrowthadvisors.com. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and perspective.